like terrorism. It looks to me like, not only 9/11, but also Madrid 7/7, the Bali hotel bombing, and probably most of these so-called Zarqawi-style bombings in Iraq are all false flag operations being carried out by, a special wing of probably U.S. or Western military intelligence.
That was University of Wisconsin professor Kevin Barrett, who has recently drawn criticism for plans to teach an Islamic studies course next fall that will incorporate conspiracy theories that the U.S. government was involved in the events of September 11th. Professor Barrett joins us now. Professor, can you give us the context within which you teach this?
Well, yeah, sure. I'm teaching an introductory course on Islam, and I think it's really important to cover these contemporary political issues, and one of them is, of course, the so-called war on terror. Now, the fact is that the great majority of the world's Muslims believe that 9/11 was an inside job.
But that's your opinion, right? You're offering your opinion that there was an inside job.
Well, after studying the evidence pretty intensively for 2.5 years, I am convinced that 9/11 was, in fact, an inside job.
And are students required to regurgitate that in some way in order to do well in your class?
That's ridiculous. No, I'm not interested in making students regurgitate anything. I'm interested in training people how to use critical thinking skills to look at the evidence in any area and come to their own conclusions.
Is this a required class?
I would hope that they'd be able to do that. No, it's not.
So this is basically an elective class. How much of the time is spent focusing on who caused 9/11?
Only about 1 week. We're looking at the war on terror for 1 week, and in fact, it's not focusing on who caused it. It's looking at the main interpretations of 9/11. And there are really several different ways of looking at 9/11, and one of them, of course, is the standard American story of the war on terror that changed everything. It set us at war. It rolled back our civil liberties. It doubled our military budget. All those things have been planned before 9/11. Every one of those things was put in place before 9/11.
Do you objectively put forth that view as well as the view of how you perceive Muslims viewing us? Are they presented in a fair and balanced manner?
Of course. In the classroom, I always present things in a fair and balanced manner. Outside the classroom, when I'm an activist or a satirist, I'll tell it like it is. Inside the classroom, I'll present all of the defensible interpretations and let the students use their own critical reasoning skills to come to their own conclusions.
All right, Mr. Barrett, Sean Hannity here. Do you really believe that 9/11 was an inside job, not just 9/11, but Madrid and Bali and the Zarqawi operations?
Well, actually...
hang on a second.
Do you
believe personally that these are inside jobs, yes or no?
It's not quite that simple. I do know, I don't believe, I know that 9/11 was an inside job. Professor Stephen Jones has found residue of thermate on the steel samples from the World Trade Center. We now know that it was taken down in a controlled demolition.
All right, so you believe that the buildings came down in a controlled demolition, right?
Well, I don't believe it. I've looked at the evidence, and the evidence is overwhelming.
All right, the evidence is overwhelming to you because you're a conspiracy nut, but
no, actually,
all
of you,
aside,
I ask your viewers to take a look at this evidence for themselves. They can go to st911.org. That's Scholars for 9/11 Truth. Take a look at the demolitions.
I know you
Morgan Reynolds, the former Bush administration official, says that the Bush administration blew the World Trade Center to kingdom come. That's a direct quote from a member of the Bush administration itself.
I know.
They blew the World Trade Center to kingdom come.
The Jews were told to leave. Well, we've heard a lot of these sick, bizarre theories.
And
I don't believe any of them, but you're allowed to believe what you want, but that's not what's at hand here. The issue is whether or not you, with your bizarre theories, are the best.
I think you have the bizarre theory. You think it was 19 guys with box cutters led by a guy on dialysis in a cave in Afghanistan? That's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, that's the craziest conspiracy theory of all of them.
Okay, I wish I had the Twilight Zone music. Now, here's my next question. The issue that is at hand here, you're entitled to have your opinion. I don't really care what you believe. But if we're talking about a captive group of students in a classroom, the question we've got to ask... Hang on a second. Well, they're sitting in your classroom, and you have a position of authority. I'm wondering, the question is whether or not you're the most competent to teach them. And most people think you're a nut. Most people think your views are not even worth listening to.
We just had a poll here in Madison, and we found that 90% of the respondents at Channel 3000 poll said that I should be allowed to teach. Only 10% said I shouldn't.
That's the question.
And 60%,
I don't think what your views are.
60% agreed with me about the questions I'm raising about 9/11. 60% of the respondents.
I think
you're in the minority.
Right to speak. I don't think this is the proper forum, though, for people that hold extremist views like yourself. Reasonable
you guys are extremists. Fox News is the biggest bunch of extremists on the planet.
reasonable people see you as an extremist, and I don't think you're the most appropriate guy to teach that class. My guess
I don't
is
think
my
you're the
final
most
thought
appropriate guy to
is
be
we
on the
can do
airwaves
better than
spewing
you.
your venom
That's my point.
throughout this country. I think you guys should be taken off the airwaves because you are the guys
silence the conservative
we don't want to
voice.
silence anybody. You teach and we'll do Hannity and Colmes. Thank you, Professor. Coming up, we'll have a